So let me get to some of the topics I wanted to get through. I want to rip through them because I'm going to be so pissed off if I leave here.
Sure.
And I didn't ask you about certain things.
Sure.
First of all, let's get to the elephant in the living room here. Stitcher is a company that a lot of people, if you're listening to my podcast on Stitcher, you can't anymore. I had it removed. If you're listening to anybody's podcast, make sure that Stitcher is indeed in business with these people and not just cutting and pasting their RSS feed. Here's how this business works. We make the read I just did for Audible.com. First of all, from the heart, company I believe in. We get paid per download, and it's like 1/10 of a penny per download, so it doesn't add up. We need all the downloads we can get. Stitcher comes along and cuts and pastes my show onto their server where they get paid for their ads.
They're selling bootlegs.
We do not participate. It's a bootleg. I was not told they were doing this. I found out they had like 100,000 downloads on their site that I didn't know about.
We had 200,000 since March.
Wow.
And I mean, here the thing, they sent several emails trying to get us into their partnership revenue program, and we just never responded. But they just went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we were not a part of that program.
That's how they work.
And
they make you an offer and then they do it anyway.
I mean, they asked last April if I could become part of their network, and I was like, at that point, I'm like, hey, listen, I want as many people to hear the show as possible. We weren't doing sponsorships yet, and I felt like, one of the things that will be beneficial about the podcast is that it'll help drive people to shows, live shows, and so, great, the more people, the better. And then recently just started to realize, like, that's weird. I feel like, let me download their app. I've never really so I downloaded the show on their app, and it streams, which is very convenient for people. It streams shows, so you don't have to download it. And then I saw a banner ad on there, and I was like, well, that's weird. I didn't really, they put a banner ad over the thing, and, so they're making money off our show, but what if we had a sponsor that was in conflict with this? And so, I showed it to, I have a business partner. I partnered up with a company that's helping run Nerdist, and they were like, "No, that's not cool. They shouldn't. They're not supposed to do that." And so we talked to them about joining their partnership program. Like, well, maybe we should see what the revenue share is. And their offer was somewhere around $100.
It's $100
per quarter.
Yep.
Which is $400 a year.
That's what, I won't say who, but a major podcaster told me he makes about $400 a year from them.
And so when I looked back at the emails, I realized that...
And they're making tens of thousands.
I don't know what they're making, but I know that they when they initially asked me if they could do the show, they did say, we take your show and we put it on our servers and we crunch it down. And I responded to that email with, well, I would prefer that you use my RSS feed. I'm fine if you use my RSS feed because I don't want to lose downloads.
Yes.
And they said, no problem. And then they did it anyway.
And by no problem...
I assumed that meant... yeah. By no problem, it meant, sure, we're going to do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And so then later on, they justified to me that they use my RSS feed. They go, we did use your RSS feed to get that one episode to then
so you
put it
got
on
the
our
one
service.
download
Like,
for the 200,000.
Guys, you know what I meant. Come on.
Yeah.
And then they've never... The thing that bothers me is that... So that was slimy. And so that makes it hard for me... If they weren't slimy about it, I might be like, fuck it. It's a couple 100,000 more people, fine.
Yeah.
But the conflicting ad thing is...
And who knows if you don't what if they're doing an ad for a company like you don't drink? All of a sudden there's a Budweiser ad or something that maybe you wouldn't do.
And also, now that we're starting to get real sponsorships in the podcast, like, we have to be mindful that it's not about greed, and it's not about me, like, trying to be stingy with the download numbers. It's just about... I feel like they went about something in kind of a sleazy way, and it's difficult for me to work with them based on that, because it's my... I mean, look, I get television is sleazy, but that's a bigger business, and I'm not responsible for that.
We didn't start that business.
I didn't start it. This is my show, and the show is me.
Yep.
And
it's all your sweat equity. It's your name.
Why would I reward you for that?
But a lot of people, thankfully, because when I noticed about it, I put a call out to you, Carolla, Rogan, Burr, Pardo, and I just said, look, Scott Aukerman, I said, look, here's what's going on. Do what you like, but just in case you weren't aware, because I wasn't aware, they just grabbed my show and put it up.
Yeah.
I found out later from people like, oh yeah, I listened to you on Stitcher. I'm like, what the fuck is Stitcher?
Yeah.
And then I call, I don't know, I started talking about them on the air. They contact me with some rinky-dink deal, which I refused. They kept it up anyway. And then they finally took it down because I wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And I don't know who else took it down, but I'm glad that more and more people are taking it down.
For me, it's not that it's about money. It's just kind of this principle of the idea of like, look, I asked you to do a certain thing, and you made it seem like you were going to do it, and then you didn't.
And that's why this business, it's all contracts. I'm sure you have a lawyer like mine. It takes fucking 3 weeks to get a simple, you get a job. It could be months until the contract's done. But
ruins
this is
the creative
why.
process. And the other thing is that, so I said when we took the show off Stitcher, the day that it happened, a bunch of people on Twitter said, why isn't your show on Stitcher? And I was cranky, and I was being cranky about something, and so I said, we removed our show from Stitcher. They're profiting from our show. They're profiting from our downloads. Can't support that. And it started a shitstorm. So, a bunch of people telling me, like, what the fuck? Fuck you. What's your problem? So, in typical nerd style, I write a 2,000-word post on my website where I lay out in a very fair and balanced way, here is what happened, this is why I made this decision, and this is why I feel this is best for the show. The show is free. There are other places you can get it. I just don't feel good about this right now.
Yeah.
I would say 80% of the people were very supportive. Hey, we're your fans. You should do what's best for your show. We'll find, 20% of the people, it was the most vitriolic, like, you greedy piece of shit. You fucking hipster pussy. How fucking dare... I'm like, first of all, the show's free.
Yeah.
So basically what those people are saying is, hey, fuck you. Not only do I want this show for free, but I want to be able to download it however I want, whenever I want.
Yes.
And it's like, come on.
I have no concern for you who solely provides me this content.
I've never whined about it. I just laid out like, I'm not whining about it.
Well, here's something I'll tell you right now. Stitcher had a bunch of shills from their company writing the vitriolic stuff to me as if they were real listeners that were taking Stitcher's side.
I don't know if that... I do know that the girl... I didn't name her in the post, the person that I was dealing with, because I didn't ask her permission, and I felt that would be shitty. But then she wrote a comment on the thread and said, the reason that we have to take the show and put it on our server so we can offer our fans a more customizable experience.
Yeah,
like, she made it seem like, hey, guys, this is all for you.
Exactly.
Never once has she said... But yeah, it helps us count if we get 100,000 downloads on your show and 100,000 on Kevin Smith's show and 100,000 on Rogan's, that they're aggregating all those numbers to get sponsorships.
Yeah,
and so
and the thing is also, do you have an app?
I don't yet because iTunes has disallowed. You can't just create an app that just streams a podcast anymore. I mean that just has your podcast feed anymore. They don't allow it.
I have one.
You got in early. They stopped allowing it. Your app has to have one other functionality besides just having an app. Just having your podcast.
Mine does. Mine has videos and it's got tour dates and
so.
But wait a minute. But my app doesn't count through iTunes. I think it's a separate count. It doesn't feed through iTunes.
It should. Your app should. Oh. Your app. You're basically. Who do you use to host your site?
Me. I use.
Is it like Libsyn or Podbean?
Libsyn, and then Mediafly built the app.
Okay, so Libsyn creates a feed for your show, which is like, gregfitzsimmons.libsyn.com/RSS.
Got it.
So you have a specific, it's not that, but it's like that feed.
Yeah.
So you have a specific feed that all the downloads pull from.
Even if it's directly through my site.
Yep. Even if it's through your site. Whether they download the MP3 directly from your site, iTunes merely takes that feed and makes it available, and the apps take that feed and pull the downloads from that. So the whole thing with Stitcher is they take the show and put it on their own feed.
So it's not going through iTunes.
It doesn't. They will give you, if you request it, they will give you your download numbers, and then it's up to you to sort of add them together.
Sure.
But the point is, they're still kind of profiting from your thing, and if it hadn't been done in a shady way, I probably would have said okay. But I just don't feel like. I feel like it's sort of slippery the way they're like, I don't know, we said we'd use the feed.
Let me ask you this, because this is, I'm sure you get approached as much as I do about this. There's every marketing genius in town wants to put together, hey, we got a website. We're going to get you and Hardwick and Marin, and we're going to have all you guys on our site. And then we're going to bring advertising in, which sounds beautiful. I would love that. I'd love a whole team of people doing, all the grunt work and really going out and doing the marketing that I can't do and doing. Eliana Horechko does my website, and she does a certain level of marketing, which is great. But I'm talking about like bringing in Ford, and I'm talking about, being able to go through social medium like I never could. You need a team of people. Wouldn't it be great if we all had that? But then it defeats the whole purpose of why we got into this. You know, it's pure and it's ours.
Right.
But if it could be done, would you be open to something like that?
Sure. I mean, I partner. I mean, I have a sales team.
Just for your show.
Yes.
But that's different. That's still you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, listen, if there were a way to like pull stuff together, I mean, the thing is, the podcast arm is a piece of all the other stuff that I'm working on, and so, you know, I sell stuff. Well, I don't really sell anything for the website, but in theory, what I would do is, I can have sponsorship run on the website and on the podcast and on other podcasts on the network, and, you know, but yeah, I would be interested in, you know, like figuring out if there's a way to.
Because it seems to me all boats rise with the tide. Every time I hear a comic, the Sklar brothers have a new podcast. Fantastic, because they got a whole fan base that's now going to learn how to download podcasts and probably sample other ones, and we'll all gain.
We're all still in that mentality, and I think that's why we all do each other's podcasts, and that's why I recommend other people's podcasts, and because I feel like, hey, everyone, if Marin gets a television deal, then that means it's good for everyone.
Yeah.
Because people know what podcasts are, and then other television
see
deals.
What's possible.
Yeah,
out
exactly.
Of it.
I mean, we're doing a TV version of mine. We're doing an episode of it.
That's great.
If people don't watch it, we won't get to do anymore, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, the possibilities, and I really feel like, you know, we got in at the very beginning, and it's not just about, so you've got X amount of listeners, but I know what to do, I know what not to do, and I feel like I get this foundation where whatever happens in the future, I know kind of what's under the hood of a podcast. I know I got to do 2 a week. I know that we've got to announce people. I know that I used to think I was afraid to do one alone, and I always need a guest. You always need a name. And now I realize, like, people enjoy the ones that are alone, mixed in with other guests, mixed in with live events.
We do a guest episode a week, and then one episode a week that's just the three of us, me and Matt Myra and Jonah Ray.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anyone was going to listen to those. But I just thought, I want to do 2 a week, and it's hard to get that many guests because I still do everything. You know, I was still doing everything myself.
That's so much work.
And so, and I didn't think anyone would listen to them. And people listen almost as much as they listen to the Famous People podcast.
Yeah.
And that blew me away.
Yeah.
But at the core of it, you know, because we're talking about it in very, you know, commercial capitalist terms, but I genuinely do the show because I like doing it. Because at a certain point, it is fucking work.
Yeah.
And you can't do it every week, twice a week, if you don't love doing it. And I genuinely do. And that's why I still do it.
Do you ever hit, like, I was in a hotel room in Chicago, and when I'm away for 4 nights, away from my family, I fucking hit the wall on the 4th day.
It's hard.
I just can't. I didn't leave the hotel room, and I was going to do a podcast. You know, I was going to do my second one of the week. And I turned it on. I did like 12 minutes. I had written down some notes. I had shit to talk about from the weekend. And then in the middle of it, I just went, this is hard to do this podcast, folks. And I went, maybe I'm just not going to do it. And I just turned off the recorder and I got into bed and I watched a movie. And it's like, sometimes it's fucking hard, but most of the time I can't wait to do it, especially if I have a guest.
Yeah.
But then there's times when I'm like in Philly for the weekend, and, you know, there's this feature act who I think is really funny. I want to interview him, and, you know, I use a clip from the live show mixed in. And to me, it's like creatively anything you want it to be. But then there's also that obligation. People get upset if they're not getting that second one that week. Mm-hmm. And that's where you got to dig in and go, like, I got to get that second one done.
Well, because I feel like we form a relationship with our audience where we say to them, hey, you know, here, please enjoy my thing and please come out to live shows. And I feel like part of that relationship is showing up. And when you make that deal with them, you just have to hold up your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Otherwise the relationship feels a little less meaningful to them because they're like, oh, it wasn't really. I mean, even if you're busy, you know, people don't know what you do in a day.
Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, how come you didn't? And I'm always sort of charmed by that if I don't post something right away and people
they get angry.
They'll go, where's the podcast? And I always go, like, that's awesome. Like, they really care about what I'm doing.
I know. It's like when like kids, when I stop in at home and they're like, Daddy, it's good to see you. I'm like, you care?